Well, it's a marvelous night for a moon dance with the stars up above in your eyes. A fantabulous night to make romance neath the cover of October skies. You know the leaves on the trees are falling to the sound of the breezes that blow. You know I'm trying to please to the calling of your heartstrings that play soft and low. You know the night's magic seemed to whisper and hush. You know the soft moonlight seems to shine in your blush. Can I just have one more moon dance with you, oh, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, oh, my love? Well, I wanna make love to you tonight. I can't wait till the morning has come. Yet I know now the time is
Mas se dia quando o vento molia e o céu mais prolongava, namorada de veleiro no peito do marinheiro que estando triste cantava.
Oh, I'm so blue. Well, I'm so lonely, lonely for you. I don't know what to do. Please, my baby, I'm so lonely. Darling, what am I gonna do? I'm so lonely for you.
Girl in the fast lane, no time for love, no time for hate, no drama, no time.
less of it. Carry it home and cook it for supper. And if she had any left over, she'd dry it out and smoke it. But she did all right. Now down in Louisiana, where the alligators grow so mean, there lived a girl that swam to the world. Hey, the alligators look tame. Poke salad Annie, poke salad Annie. Everybody said it was a shame, 'cause her mama was a wicked on a chain. On a Sunday afternoon, really couldn't get away too soon. Can't imagine anything better. World is ours whenever we're together. Ain't no place I'd like to be instead. Just which is the way that's clear. Still looking for that blue jean, baby queen, prettiest girl that I ever seen. See her shaking on a movie screen. Jimmy Dean, James Dean. She took my heart away. She said I got it coming to me, but I wanted it that way.
without saying a word. You can light up the dark. Try as I may, I could never explain what I hear when you don't say a thing. The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you never leave me. The touch of your hand says you catch me if ever I fall. You say it best when you say nothing at all.
And that was the Mia's World medley of music based on today's date's birthdays, July 23rd. So here we are. This is My World. Welcome to My World. Welcome to Mia's World. Welcome to City World Radio Network. Welcome to Jade Zabrich, my wonderful editor, engineer, singer, songwriter. Hi, Jade. How are you?
Howdy.
Where are you playing this week?
So I'm going to play at the pianos this Saturday at 7 o'clock with the Train Walkers. And we're going to be on TV tonight at on the MNN, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, Channel 56.
Fantastic. That's Jade Zabrich. And my guest tonight, who we'll be talking to and listening to his amazing guitar strings and stylings and spiritual and soulful music, is Nadav Lev. Welcome, Nadav.
Hi. Great
Shalom.
To be here. Shalom, shalom.
Or, I talk backwards, so I hear everything phonetically backwards. So I hear shalom, I hear molash.
Molash.
Yeah.
Molash.
Molash.
If it was from Hungary, maybe.
Right, exactly. So first, let's just hear what we heard in the music medley tonight. We started with Moonlight in Vermont, my theme song, Moonlight in Vermont by Karl Susdorf, one of my favorite versions, Stan Getz. And then in honor of the Apollo 11 50-year anniversary, which most of you have heard of if you're not under a rock, this is the 50th anniversary year, July 20th, 1969. We heard Van Morrison's Moon Dance. And then a beautiful Portuguese fado singer, Amália Rodrigues, born July 23rd, 1920, followed by pianist Billy Taylor, July 24th, not July 23rd, born in 1921 with Cole Porter's Night and Day. Then the American pianist and conductor Leon Fleischer, whose birthday was July 23rd, 1928, with the Chopin Nocturne, Opus 27, number 2. Followed by Steve Lacy, born Steve Lakritz, soprano saxophonist, born July 23rd, 1934, with Duke Ellington's Daydream. And then American rock vocalist Gary Stites, born 1940, July 23rd, with Lonely for You, which hit the Billboard charts number 24 in June 1959. Then we had, I had a special show tonight, a 6 o'clock show with Chrissy Beckles calling in from the Saito Project. She rescues abandoned dogs in Puerto Rico, and she picked Sia, so we played Big Girls Cry. And then my current guest, Nadav Lev, picked one of many groups that he favors, Radiohead. We heard No Surprises. Then we heard the American singer Madeleine Bell, born July 23rd, 1942, with Can't Get Used to Losing You, born in Newark, New Jersey, Madeleine Bell. Tony Joe White, the American rocker from Polk Salad Annie, love that name, born in Louisiana, born July 23rd, 1943, with Polk Salad Annie. Then Dino Danelli, the American rock drummer from Young Rascals and Photomaker, born 1944, with Groovin'. And we heard Nadav Lev perform Flow My Tears, one of my favorite composers of all time, John Dowland, with Rinat Shaham, the soprano. Andy McKay, the English rock saxophonist and oboe player from Roxy Music, with Green and Gold. Andy McKay, born 1946, July 23rd. David Essex, the English rock vocalist, with Rock On, born July 23rd, 1947. Blair Thornton, Canadian rock guitarist, with You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, and he was born in Vancouver, July 23rd, 1950. Canadian singer-songwriter Ian Thomas, born July 23rd, 1950, with Painted Ladies. The American jazz singer Janice Siegel, famous for Manhattan Transfer, born in 1952, July 23rd, with I Wish You Love. And Martin Gore, the English rocker from Depeche Mode, with Just Can't Get Enough, July 23rd, 1961. Slash, Saul Hudson, the English-American rock guitarist from Guns N' Roses, with Sweet Child of Mine, born July 23rd, 1965. Sam Waters from Color Me Bad with I Want to Sex You Up, born July 23rd, 1970. Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child, born 1980 with Believe in Me. And finally, one of my all-time favorite singers, American bluegrass musician Alison Krauss, born July 23rd, 1971, with When You Say Nothing at All. And a couple of other July 23rd birthdays that are not musicians. Okay. We've got William Gillette, the American actor and playwright who performed Sherlock Holmes on stage. Albert Warner from Warner Brothers fame, American film producer, 1884. Raymond Chandler, the British-American mystery writer, 1888. All born July 23rd. Arthur Treacher, the English TV announcer from The Merv Griffin Show, born in Brighton, England in 1894, July 23rd. Vera Rubin, the American astronomer who discovered dark matter, born in 1928. Don Drysdale, the American baseball player from the LA Dodgers, 1936. Don Imus, the American radio DJ, 1940. Spencer Christian, the American TV weatherman, 1947. Katie Tang, the Chinese-American news anchor, born in China in 1950. American actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, who sadly died in 2014, born July 23rd, 1967. Marlon Wayans, the comedian from In Living Color, born 1972. Monica Lewinsky, our favorite White House intern, born in 1973. She's actually doing some wonderful anti-bullying work now. And the English actor from Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, who turned 30 today, 1989, July 23rd. And July 23rd in history, William Austin Burt patented the America's first typographer or typewriter in 1829. In 1929, the fascist government in Italy bans the use of foreign words. July 23rd, 1962, Telstar transmitted the first publicly transmitted live transatlantic TV program featuring Walter Cronkite. In 1966, Frank Sinatra's album Stranger in the Night became number 1 on the U.S. charts. And in 1984, Vanessa Williams became the first American to resign when she surrendered her crown after nude photos of her appeared in Penthouse magazine. Today's fun holidays, July 23rd, is Gorgeous Grandma Day, so kiss your grandma. It's Hot Enough for You today. It's National Vanilla Ice Cream Day and Yada 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 Day. On April 17th, 2015, Michael Casby saw there was a blah, blah, blah day. He then tweeted and declared July 23rd as Yada 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 Day. And you might remember that from the famous Seinfeld episode, the Yada Yada episode. Okay, and now before we talk to my wonderful guest, Nadav Lev, we're going to wrap up the news in rhyme, as we do every week on Mia's World. So here we go. And you can follow along if you'd like, Nadav. All right, so here we go. The heat wave in New York could practically melt a fork, trying not to get stuck on the subway potluck. Instead, let's pop a cork. To celebrate the summer, just march to a different drummer. Get onto Twitter, but don't get too bitter, or else it's a Betty bummer. So now they're bigger than God, the foursome known as the Squad. They're very annoyed. Is there a real void, or is it just a facade? Seems like lots of hate. Is that our political fate? To rev up the ride, to split and divide the Dems with a heavy weight? Like Omar and AOC, on a socialist spree. Are Americans ready for going steady with the Green New Deal? Let's see. Are things getting more intense in the Middle East in suspense? Looks like Iran may have a plan for war. It's common sense. They're grabbing British ships. Are they saying, read my lips? America's fearing that we're gearing up and not just for fish and chips. Guess who made her debut? None other than Ivy Blue on the Lion King collab, nothing less than fab, with Mom Beyonce. Woohoo! Guess who's the latest comic to make a comeback astronomic? Eddie Murphy, for real? As for his deal, 70 mil economic? Netflix is shelling out many millions, without a doubt. Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Amy Schumer, well, guess they've all got clout. The blackout shut down the pro, but leave it to J-Lo to one more time be sublime and do just one extra show. Entering the Hall of Fame as the greatest closer of the game? Nope, not Ukrainian. Yup, Panamanian. Mariano Rivera is his name. It's Yada Yada Day, so blah blah your cares away. What could be duller than watching Bob Mueller? Now where is my Chardonnay? That's our rhyming wrap-up of the week. And we have to add some chartreuse to the beige of the world. So now let's hear again. I'm introducing Nadav Lev, a wonderful, wonderful personality and in his own right, and a magnificent musician, guitarist. I've been listening to a lot of his music, and I've ironically witnessed and seen some of your live concerts
Right.
recently.
That's how we met.
Yes, exactly, and such fun to hear you play, and you have such verve and gusto. And well, let's start at the beginning. You were born in Israel in a kibbutz.
Born in Israel, that's correct.
Right, and you started playing jazz guitar about the age of 9, I read.
Exactly. That's when I started playing guitar. I don't know if I played jazz like from the first day I picked up the guitar, but you know, that was the direction.
Oh, that's very funny. I mean, so were your parents musicians?
My dad is a musician. He wasn't always working as a full-time musician, but his biggest love was always music, and he sang and still sing in choirs and solo, and so he's like a classical music person and lover. And it's interesting that I started with jazz, and then later on reached classical music, which of course he was very happy about. But the beginning was it was in jazz. So I sort of made perhaps the opposite path to many who sort of start classical and then jazz it up.
You started with jazz and classic it up. So you were back to the backwards thing.
Yeah.
What did you remember? What you were listening to at home, like when you were growing up?
Ooh,
I mean, did you a lot of classical? Or?
There was a lot of classical music at home for sure. And again, it's interesting that when I got interested in classical music in my late teens, early 20s, I sort of came back to all this music, and suddenly, it was ingrained in me already because I have heard it always, even when I wasn't so focusedly interested in it. But I also heard, I guess, lots of Israeli folk music that was always around. That still, I think, something in my musical personality and sort of style, and it's always there. And of course, lots of music from all over the world that the world wasn't then, I guess, as global as it is now, in the sense that we all, but still, of course, from Beatles to to pop and rock and all that was always around. So I grew with all that, and then later, of course, jazz and.
Well, I mean, you've got quite a background in studying. You studied at Manhattan School of Music with David Starobim, wonderful guitarist. Got your MA there, but you studied at Tel Aviv University at the Rubin Academy, which is music academy, right?
Correct.
But you also studied philosophy in Tel Aviv University.
That's true. I wanted to have it all. And
you seem like a philosopher to me.
I do?
Yeah, you do. You seem very sort of deep and curious, and you sort of penetrate the music and
I think
question things.
I think if I wasn't, if I didn't turn a musician, I would have been perhaps in philosophy or something like that. And I got my bachelor in philosophy, and I did a very intense bachelor degree, that because music in general and specifically in Israel is within itself a very packed and full program, and I chose to do it together with philosophy, so I did like a double major.
Wow.
And it was great and exciting and fulfilling, and I think the two complemented each other. And in music, I also was both a performer, right, on guitar and
a
composer. So because my bachelor is in composition and not in guitar officially. So I did lots of things, and that's kind of what I still like to do, to be diverse and to sort of include lots of different angles.
Well, you do both solo and obviously collaboration. You've collaborated with one of my favorite instruments, the mandolin.
Right.
You've collaborated with singers and orchestral, the Israel Symphony Orchestra and the Israel Kibbutz Orchestra. You had a debut solo album. You made a Carnegie Hall debut. I mean, you've done pretty much everything. You're an Andrei Segovia Award winner. And I wondered if you prefer the collaboration or the solo?
It's a good question. It's an interesting... first of all, I definitely love both, and I wouldn't give up on any of them. I do love collaboration very much, and I'm a collaborative person, and as you said, I've collaborated with many singers. I have a duet which we'll hear from, I think, later on, with a wonderful double bassist, Remy Yulzari from France, and many others. So it's important for me to always collaborate and to collaborate with different people. Some of them are like long-term, ongoing collaboration, and some are let's say for one project or evening or whatever. But on the other hand, I also love to play solo, and classical guitar. Classical guitar is wonderful for both, right? There are instruments who are very nice solo, but like you need, I don't know, I suppose if you play the flute, you can play solo, and there are wonderful solo pieces, but essentially you want to be accompanied, so you collaborate. But classical guitar, there are classical guitarists who mostly play solo, like you have full recital of only solo classical guitar, and I do that. I do these kind of concerts, and I love it. But I also love to collaborate, so I try to balance that.
Well, let's hear something. I love talking, but I love listening to the music.
Me too.
So, how about I love this lullaby, Nana.
Yes.
This is from an album called Azafea, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
But I
Precisely.
read that in the 11th century, the astronomer Arzakel invented this navigation instrument, and this is sort of an odyssey. It's called a Spanish Odyssey. That's the CD. It's all about travel.
Correct.
It's the Lev Yulzari duo with Frank London and John Hadfield, but it's Nadav Lev on guitar and Remy Yulzari on double bass. And this one is a lullaby called Nana, based on Manuel de Falla. It's one of 7 popular Spanish chansons or
exactly.
canción.
So Manuel de Falla collected these songs from different regions of Spain, and this is a very beautiful and famous lullaby. The original version by de Falla is for voice and piano, but then it was played a lot, and I've been playing it on guitar, like transcribing or arranging the part from piano to guitar. And then here, instead of voice, you have no less than a double bass.
That's great.
Which
Interesting.
is interesting.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's
that's
hear it.
kind of
This is number
our
9
version.
on Azafea, Nana. Nana, And you heard Nadav Lev, my guest on Me Is World, on guitar, and Remy Yulzari on double bass, contrabass. That was based on the Manuel de Falla
Exactly.
version.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful, beautiful combination of sounds, very lush sounding. Nadav is here in the studio, and another interesting thing, comparisons is the theme here. You know, we were talking about solo versus collaboration. You do a lot of modern on the album New Strings Attached,
Right.
some modern pieces, but you also do some old world pieces based on Sephardic
Exactly,
tunes.
right.
And
Yeah, so I have a little bit of quote unquote split personality, but hopefully
Are you a Gemini?
No. I'm a Taurus. In a good sense of the word, I would say pretty much at least 50% of my activities around contemporary music written today in the context of classical music, but by composers who are active today. And I play it both on classical and electric guitar. But on the other hand, of course, I play, traditional and more sort of classical music on classical guitar. But I also, and especially on the collaborative projects, play music that integrate many different styles and worlds of sound. And you could call it, I think, if one really wants to find word, maybe world music, but it's not really world music, but it's something that mashes up classical music, but also some folk elements and improvisational elements, and probably some jazz touches from my
your
past as
jazz
a
background.
Exactly. So it's true. It's two in many ways, very different worlds, but maybe not so different. And I like to think that they kind of
They merge.
merge and influence each other.
Yes, that's a beautiful statement. Well, let's hear one of your own compositions by Nadav Lev, and this is again from the Azafea CD, a Spanish Odyssey, Un Odyssée Espagnol. It's called Blues de Sefarad, which is, what is Sefarad, or who
So
is?
Sepharad, as you just said, Ladino Sephardic. So the Sephardic culture is the culture of the Jews that originally came from Spain, right?
Right.
After were expelled in
1492.
Exactly. Good.
I know my history.
And
Or some of it.
so that culture is very dear to me, and there's some beautiful melodies and songs, and some of them are also played in the CD. And this is an original that is, in a way, inspired by, let's say, by this culture, by this music, but also incorporates some influences from jazz and blues. And a name is just a name, but I felt that somehow that name, Blues de Sefarad, kind of frames the two extremes that are maybe not so extremely apart, that or more than two, that
Very
come
old
to,
and
that
very
come
new.
to play, that come to play there, and old and new, but also like sort of Mediterranean and American. I wrote it here in New York, where I live.
Okay,
and
well-
I'm Jewish. I'm not Sephardic, but I'm close to this culture. So
Here we
essentially
go.
that's what it is.
Blues de Sefarad. Sefarad. That was Nadav Lev playing, and one of his own compositions called Blues de Sepharad from the CD Asafea, and we were just talking about the influence of Sephardim or Sephardic music.
Sephardic culture, Sephardic
Right,
music,
Sephardic
yeah.
culture, and that all the Sepharda, I can't pronounce it.
Huh.
Sepharad means Spain.
Right, exactly. Sepharad. In fact, in Hebrew, Sepharad is Spain.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So when they were coming out of Spain, then they ended up in all these different lands and cultures.
Exactly.
And your music, this particular piece, is such an interesting blend of old world and sort of bluesy modern. So
Yeah.
it's the real essence of what you were just talking about.
Right.
Blending cultures, blending styles,
Right.
blending sounds. What did you have? Do you have any blues muse? A muse of blues? Anybody in blues that you like, particularly in the jazz world?
I
American?
love, again, I grew up with jazz, so I always listened and loved, the greats of jazz. I don't know, from Miles Davis to all the great jazz guitarists,
Yeah.
and also blues. So it's it's always been something that
In
it's
your
part of me, and exactly. And even when it's not like, I'm not a jazz musician per se anymore, and but I always come back to it and listen to jazz, and it's sort of, and even when I don't, it's embedded in me. That's it.
Yeah, because once it's there, I guess it's just there.
Totally. Yeah. Especially
and
from a young age, when it's from a young age.
Yeah. Now, when you compose, do you like to compose at a certain time of day or in a
Well,
certain location?
It's a good question. Now I have little kids, so it's like
Right,
I have
two
to
young
do
sons.
it when I can, when
Squeeze
I have
it
time.
into the
It's like
time.
it's not like I can choose. Oh, maybe I'll do it now. When I have time,
Whenever
I do it.
Seize the moment, right?
Exactly. But my activity is much of it is performance and not necessarily my pieces. So I have to practice many hours also, just like the classical and otherwise pieces that I play and that I prepare. So I have also to split my time between this and composing. That's.
Do you have, first of all, let's talk about your website, which is
nadavlev.com. So
And-
www.nadavlev.com.
do you what's coming up for you in terms of concerts, or are you
So
heading abroad? I think
Yeah,
you
so
said?
I'm heading very soon to Europe, where I'll actually reunite with my collaborator from what we just heard, Remy.
Remy
we're-
Yulzari?
Yeah, and we're actually going to record a new CD. So this CD came out, I forgot actually, 2014 or 15.
Okay.
And
You're doing a new one.
and we're making a new one.
Where do you record?
In Paris.
Oh,
In the
not
Jewish
bad.
in the Jewish Museum in Paris.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Can
And
I
so
come
looking
listen?
forward to that. And then we'll have we're playing, we'll also perform. So so my next activity is in Europe, and then later in Israel in a different collaboration. I was invited to collaborate with two amazing artists, the singer, amazing renowned soprano Barbara Hannigan,
Yes.
who is singer that focuses or does mostly, but not only, contemporary music. She's very famous for. She's really amazing. I should say a singer and conductor. She's also an amazing conductor. And dancer, a legendary dancer from Israel, Rina Schenfeld, who is one like sort of you could say the mother of Israeli modern dance, and who I believe founded the Batsheva famous dance company, and she's amazing. She's 80 years old, and she performs still and choreographs and dance amazingly.
Fantastic.
So I'll be collaborating
With them.
with the two of them in a special project in Israel in the beginning of September.
Wow. Well, what would you like to hear next? Would you like to hear something from
Since we spoke of Sephardic culture, maybe we can play one of those Sephardic songs from that album. So in New Strings Attached is an album that I did of all music written by young Israeli composers, and one of the pieces is actually an arrangement or a setting also of Ladino songs, but in more sort of classical context, and it's by a composer named Jonathan Karen, and sang by the amazing Rinat Shaham, great friend and collaborator, and mezzo-soprano, and violinist Miranda Cookson, also a wonderful New York-based contemporary violinist. And I would pick a track number, let me see, well, perhaps to have something more rhythmical, we can do number, either number 4 or 5. Let's do number 4. So it's these are more modern settings of and yeah, sort of takes on Sephardic pieces. And there are 3 of these songs, so we'll pick the number 4, the middle one.
Number 4, Jade, on New Strings Attached again.
And it's
Nadav
called
Lev, Abre tu puerta cerrada.
Yeah, so it means open your door widely, or something like that.
All right,
Open.
here we are. Nadav Lev.
Abre tu puerta cerrada y tu balcón llorando. No el amor que yo te libera, partiremos los dos de aquí.
This is the incredible Nadav Lev, and that was from New Strings Attached, and that was beautiful, gorgeous sound. Another collaboration. 3 Ladino songs, and that was Abre tu puerta cerrada, and Jay tells me that...
By Jonathan Karen.
Jonathan Karen, yes. Jonathan Karen is on this. Many other collaborators, Miranda Cookson, Rinat Shaham, Gilad Cohen, one of the composers. Lots of great stuff on Nadav Lev's CD, New Strings Attached. And you're quite an intriguing blend of many different styles, forms, and tones, and love hearing your music, Nadav.
Thank you.
And we're going to go out of Mia's world on this rainy Tuesday, New York City night in July with Besame Mucho, again from Nadav's Azafea CD, and that is number 3 on the Azafea CD. Thank you so much for coming on to Mia's World, Nadav.
It was a pleasure.
So much fun to hear about
music and life.
And life and Sephardic culture, and it's a beautiful thing. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. It was a real pleasure.
Shalom.
Good night. Shalom. Molash.
Molash.
And have a good night.
Yes, thank
Laila
you.
Tov. See you soon.
Yes. And here's Besame Mucho from Nadav
Besame
Lev.
mucho.